Greetings and welcome everybody to the broadcast. I'm your host, Maggie Cavanaugh, Keys to Your Best Life. Today I have an amazing woman of God, a sister in Christ. Oh, I love this lady. And I have not seen her in a while. So it's been such a joy this morning visiting with her and finding out what she has been up to. So I would like to introduce to you author, speaker, amazing conference host of the New Beginnings Conference that takes place in Middle Tennessee annually, and established a coach and author with amazing books and one to come. So let me introduce you to Cherie Jobe. Welcome to the broadcast.
Hey, Maggie. So happy to be here with you today. Thanks for asking me.
I am so glad. I've been wanting to have you on here for a while. Things have been hectic for both of us. And
it has.
Calendars and so forth, and I stay pretty busy and booked up, but I was like, I couldn't go another day without visiting you, finding out how you're doing, finding out what the Lord's been doing through you during this whole post-COVID thing and what is on the horizon. So for those that do not know her, you have got to get her books. Okay, her first book is called Secrets Behind the Chair, which, as you can tell, as how put together she is, and I have never seen her, thank you for holding that up, I have never seen her have a bad hair day, but her second book was about overcoming, overcoming, there it is.
Surviving the bad hair days.
Now.
And we all have them, Maggie.
We do. Some days are worse than others.
That is true. That is very true.
But the names of the books can give you a little bit of insight about what her profession was before God called her into ministry. And I'm so grateful that he did call her into ministry, because she's been able to help a lot of people. So tell us what inspired that first book and how that all came about.
Well, Secrets from Behind the Chair was birthed. The Lord knew way ahead, just like he always does, that we all have secrets, and we all have stories, and he really put that in my spirit at the beginning of when I started sharing my God stories publicly. And once it's out, it's no longer a secret. And to be honest with you, I fought with him many times about, why do I have to share my secrets? And, it's like, why can't you pick somebody else? And he knew from the very beginning of why he had chose me. Sometimes I have people ask me all the time, why do you think he chose you? And sometimes I wondered that myself, but to be honest with you, Maggie, I think it was because I said yes. I trusted him to know more about what he had in store for me than I trusted myself by sharing my secrets. And I knew those secrets were powerful, and I knew there was many people that needed to hear those secrets. And they're just my life secrets, the path and the journey, that all the mistakes that I made. But it's not about that. It's about how God showed me grace and mercy, and that he can use you no matter where you have been in your life. So that's what that book is about. And it has 18 people that sat in my hairdressing chair. And, you share your life with your hairdresser. And
yes.
So with their permission, I penned their God stories too. So my story is woven throughout that book, and with other stories also in there.
I love the format of it. I love the other stories. I love the fact that hairdressers make great therapists.
Yes, we do.
And people, they kid around all the time. I grew up, my mother was a beautician. And so one of my favorite childhood memories was getting in her chair and spinning around and so forth. But the conversations that took place in her shop behind the chair. So when I seen the title of that book, before I even knew you personally, I was like, oh, she's a hairdresser. She's got some good stories.
Yes.
Everything comes out of the beauty shop.
It does. It does.
So now the second book, which is, I love the title and I love the graphics on the front, because it's like,
I know
that's how you feel. Tell us a little bit about that one.
Yeah, that's the way I feel most days with my hair sometimes. This book, Surviving the Bad Hair Days, is very, it's sort of similar, but we've all survived something in our life.
Yes.
And
Yes.
it's how the attitude that we have a lot of times that is the important thing about being able to move forward, and how you survive life situations. And in this book, I share my survival story of, on my 48th birthday, I had open heart surgery. I had a main blockage, and I was in the hair salon, had one in the chair, one under the dryer, and one waiting. You know, that's just the way we worked when we were hairdressers. And that's the only way you can make money as a hairdresser. You have to have somebody waiting. And I mean, the day, October the 10th, I started having the pain in my jaw, all the signs that a lot of women ignore. But about 2 o'clock that day, I told the lady in my chair, I have to go to the back room. And I never came back out of that back room except on a stretcher. And so you'll love this, being a good hairdresser that I was, they said, I don't remember this, but I had one under the dryer, was getting a permanent. And all I could say when I went to the back room was call 911 and call my husband. That was all I could get out. My body just shut down. But they said that on the way out on the stretcher, on the gurney, that I actually raised up and said, would somebody please take care of that lady that's under the dryer? And I know she appreciated that, because her hair would have fried if I hadn't said that. So famous last words for a hairdresser.
Wow. I can't imagine the fear that you were dealing with, but praise God you weren't there by yourself.
That's right. That's right.
So, and that lady's hair probably would have looked a little similar to your book cover. It would have been like,
yeah, she reminds me of that often, that she was so thankful that I did remember her on my way out. So
bless her heart. Bless her heart. Well, I'm so thankful that you wrote that book, because a lot of people have to bounce back from the difficult times. And, we make statements like that, having a bad hair day, or, just a menopausal moment, or whatever it is that we say. But the reality is that we all go through stuff in life. We
do.
And people need to know they're not alone.
That's right. That's right. Maggie, I wore a mask for all my life, pretty much. A mask that told you that I had it all together, that everything was fine. And, I looked the part. I did all of those things like many of us do. But underneath that mask was a broken mess. And God knew that. And but many of us go through life not really saying what is really going on in your life.
Right.
And so sometimes you have to, before the Lord can really, really heal you and heal your heart, you have to take that mask off. And you have to surrender, and you have to say, Lord, I can't do this alone. I've made a mess. If you can still use my mess, and that's what I told him in these books, if you can still use my mess that I made, then I'm in. I trust you. I've seen what you've done in my life. And if you can use this broken vessel, then here I am. And that's what he did.
He is faithful. He does. He takes our messes and turns them into messages, which allowed you to launch a pretty amazing conference that is hosted here annually. And this year, 2020, would have been the 10th year anniversary, right?
Yes, it would have. We have had this event. we started out in January, and the weather was so unpredictable in
Yeah.
January that we decided to go ahead and move it into February. And, one year, February is a little bit unpredictable in Tennessee now. We had that major ice storm. I'll never forget it. My speakers, we had to haul in big old trucks. People were going and getting them at the airport. It was crazy. The whole state of Tennessee was shut down. And here I am. I'm just on my knees praying, Lord, what am I going to do? And, one thing I've learned about the Lord, unless he tells you no, then you just keep doing what you know to do. And that's what we did. And 250 women showed up. I laughed about that because I'm like, they were so desperate to get out of the house, they would go anywhere. So they did show up, but I'll never forget this, Maggie. I've got to share this with you. I always stayed at the Embassy Suites, and they happened to put me on the very top floor. And you know me, I don't like elevators, but I said, I'll go and stay wherever you put me at. And I'll never forget this because ice was everywhere. I'm just in a twit, wondering how this is going to go and what will happen. And, all those things that an event planner just scares you to death. You trust in God on one hand and then going, oh my gosh, what in the world are we going to do on the other hand? And sometimes you just have to just surrender. And that's what I did. And I'll never forget this. At 2:00 in the morning, now, 2:00 in the morning, rain started hitting my window and woke me up. And it was just a reminder to me that the Lord was melting that ice.
Yeah.
And, sometimes he just reminds us that I'm still here. I haven't forgotten you in Tennessee, and I know that the ice is going to melt. So just chill out and relax. And that's what we did. And we had 250 women to show up that day.
I remember that year. I remember that ice storm. I live in the country, and I had trees down on both sides and no electricity.
That's
and
right.
nobody and we actually had another ice storm this year that was the same, but this time I had a generator.
Oh yeah. We get a little smarter in our old age, don't we?
Isn't that the truth? Isn't that the truth? I thought, well, if I'm going to be out here in the middle of nowhere, I better have some way of getting some power.
That's right.
But that just shows how hungry people can be to be encouraged and to be inspired. And that's why your books, your speaking, and all of the things that you do help people to move forward and get past the things that they've gone through.
Right.
I'm really excited about your new book that's coming out in September. How much can you share with the audience about that?
Well, Maggie, the title of this book is Living Beyond a Memory, Hope and Healing Through Grief. It is a book that I never in a million years anticipated writing. I had planned on living the rest of my life with my sweet husband, Jim, but he was hit with ALS, and only through God's mercy and grace lived 2 years after his diagnosis. And, as hard as that was, and as hard and wicked as ALS is, it was a blessing to me for him not to have had to suffer any longer than 2 years.
Right.
But, they tell you when you're writing books to write about what you know. And I do remember after Jim passed, going through all of those stages that you go through in grief, and you do go through stages. I thought I really was going crazy for the way that I was feeling or not feeling, or just a fog of not knowing what my life was going to look like now. He was gone and he wasn't coming back. And what do I do now? And, how do I stand alone? And you know, all of those questions that we ask. And I searched desperately for somebody or something to tell me that it was going to be okay, that I was going to survive, that I could move forward. Now, when you move forward, sometimes it's just a step at a time, or it's a day at a time. There was times that it was a minute at a time.
That's right.
I could not keep my head up. I struggled. I struggled because Jim was my biggest supporter. He was a gift from God. We had a fabulous marriage. I had had the worst of men, and I had had the best of a man. And God gave me the best when he gave me Jim. And so I had a gauge, and I knew I had lost a Jim. Literally a Jim, G-E-M. His name was Jim, and he was just a great man of character, of faith, and I miss him every day. Sure. But through the healing process that I've gone through, I felt like books that I had read, I found a couple of books that I had read that really I just highlighted them and just lived and read them over and over and over again until I believed that my life was going to be able to move forward. And this book is gives you tools to move forward, the things that I learned, because that's why I named it Living Beyond the Memory. So many people get stuck, Maggie, because they're now alone. They don't have their partner. They are now, I am Cherie Jobe. I'm no longer Jim Jobe's wife. We just sort of get stuck with knowing who we are and what does my life look like now. So I hope this book brings comfort. We're hoping to have our first book signings in September. I'll have those on my website and on my Facebook that possibly people can go to and come get a copy, or just get a couple of copies. That's what I did, and I still have some in my office right now of some of the books that was very important to me. And I give them to people that I know that have gone through a loss. And so hopefully I'll be giving them my book now, that I can give them some tools that I've been able to use as I walk forward.
Wow, that's amazing. So in your coaching practice, are you going to be working with people, coaching through grief?
I'm already doing that.
That's great.
I've had some people to reach out to me that have lost children, have lost spouses, that have said to me, I'm just stuck. Now, I always tell people I'm a little bit, I don't know how to explain this other than I want people to know that I can tell you the tools, but you have to apply them. You have a part in this. There's not a magic wand. There's not anything. You have to move through grief at your own pace.
Yes.
And you have to do the work. I can't do the work for you. So, I don't say that I push, but I'm very adamant, about people doing their own work.
That's important in coaching, and a lot of people don't understand that, because it is not. People think it's a coach that someone's, and we as coaches, we are there to cheer them on, encourage them to go to the next level, but it is work. And
That's right.
grief is work, and it's a process. It's any type of pain that you have, anything you're going through, anything you're trying to accomplish is going to require of you.
That's right.
And people are wasting their time and energy and money if they are not willing to do the work. And there's a time and a season for everything. Some people are in that season where they are ready, and some people have to take, like you said, those baby steps, kind of like crawl. You know, we always crawl before we walk.
Right.
So, and I get it. Grief is rough. It is so incredibly rough. You know, we recently lost, last year, right before COVID, we lost my sister-in-law suddenly. And then right about the time that her husband was passing, my sister Joe, her husband, had pancreatic cancer. My sister-in-law, that same time had died of brain cancer. I mean, it's evident. You know, we know the Bible says that it's appointed for a man once to die, but we live every day, and sometimes we're not emotionally prepared for it. But I watched you walk with I never will forget the day you walked in and spoke at Christian Women in Media, and I believe that was right after the diagnosis.
Yes, I had came straight from Vanderbilt.
Yes, I remember that. And I was like, at that point on, I was like, I'm praying for her. She's going to get through this. And I knew right then that God was going to take your pain and turn it into something to help other people. So I'm so grateful that you are processed the stages. And grief is tricky. If you're sitting there going, well, I've been stuck in this phase, or I've been stuck in that phase. The reality is grief can show up at any time. I lost my sister. Both my parents had gone on to be with the Lord, but I had lost my sister, not my sister-in-law this last year, but the year before that, my sister, when I was at my mother-in-law's funeral, I had went out that night. My sister came to the hotel where I was staying. We sat in the jacuzzi. We spent a great deal of time. I left that night not knowing that was going to be the last time I seen her. She had a heart attack and fell and hit her head. And within 10 days, I was actually performing her memorial service. And you just don't know.
No,
so
you do
we have to love hard while we can, but we also have to hold on loosely to where the Lord, when it's people's time to go, that we're able to say, okay, and trust that we are going to see them again for those who are in Christ.
That's right.
Wow.
That's one of the promises that keeps me going every day, that I will see him again. Amen. And I know without a shadow of a doubt, he is watching me every day. He sends me little signs all the time that only, whether it's a butterfly or a penny, or I save all of those things. And in my book, I have a chapter about the pennies from heaven. And a lot of people I've heard have experienced that too. And sometimes I'll just, I don't know how that works and how God allows those special people that are in heaven with him to be a guardian angel for us. But I do believe that he does. And I'm thankful that God is, that loves us enough to walk this journey with me. There was times that I couldn't even talk, Maggie. I would be a puddle. And it will be 4 years this October since his death. And it was just like it was yesterday.
Sure.
And grief can slap you upside the head from a song, or I found a card the other day that Jim had written me. And it's just, that's grief. You're never rid of it. Willie Nelson wrote this song, and the name of it is, the gist of it is, grief is not something you ever get over. It's something that you learn to get through.
I believe
and it is an amazing, if you get a chance, look that up. And it's by Willie Nelson. You can tell by Willie singing that song that he has experienced grief himself, just by listening to him sing it. Mm-hmm. So grief is a hard little thing to walk through, but yes. I want people to know that you are not alone, and it is not meant for you to walk alone.
That's right.
So,
Yeah, and that's good to have a support system. And grief is tricky; it can hit you at any time. I remember,
yeah.
after my sister, I had processed the pain of her loss, and I was in the Sam's over here in Murfreesboro, and they had out a bunch of rose bushes, for sale. And I was standing there in Sam's, and her name was Laura Rose, and we called her Rosie. And I'm standing in front of these roses, and I just started bawling. I just don't and you just don't know when things are going to hit you.
No.
And so we have to be sensitive to the Holy Spirit, the Comforter, to come in and hold us up through those things. We have to remember tomorrow's not promised, and we have to treasure our relationships now. Yes. And then also, in addition to that, what you were saying about him watching over you, I believe in the scriptures it talks about that great cloud of witnesses. And I think that's the people that have gone before us, and they are cheering us on. And so, I'm I don't believe in all the heebie-jeebie, like they're ghosts or they're here with us.
Right,
The Bible's very clear about, talking to the dead like that, and seances and all that kind of stuff. Sometimes out of people's pain of grief and not knowing how to process it, they will seek out things like that, and they will get so caught up, and it delays their healing.
Yes.
And it's so unfortunate and opens up the doors to the demonic. So, but I'm so grateful that God has brought you through that. And you know that, he's still cheering you on. He's going,
he is.
Buy those shoes.
I know it. Well, that is my big, most passionate thing right now, Maggie, that I am very, very passionate about, and that is to live your best life now.
Yes.
Because when you lose your soulmate, and, I've lost my mom and my dad and other people that I love, but when I lost Jim, it took on a whole new meaning of how precious life is right now. That you're right. Buy those shoes, eat that cake, go on that trip, burn those scented candles, buy that whatever it is that you want. Not to get yourself in financial trouble, but to enjoy life to the fullest. Yes. There's so many things that you can go and do that are free. Keep your tribe of friends around you that lift you up and encourage you and all of those things. Life is truly a gift, and it is precious. And you need to live your best life right now.
Yes. I'm so glad you said that, because, I always ask everybody to give a key at the end of the broadcast. And that is key, to live your best life today. And that may look different for all of you all. But again, tomorrow's not promised. But if you burn those scented candles, this is the holistic Maggie coming out. Get the soy ones, okay? Don't put toxins in your house. If you need essential oils, I can hook you up. But stay healthy. But that is so true. So many people will say, oh, that's the good china, and we only use that. Oh, yeah. Get your china out and fix your cup of tea.
I was at a friend's house yesterday, and she was asking me about I love to decorate, and she was wanting some decorating, thoughts. And I told her, I said, she was talking about her mother's china. She had 3 sets of china. And I said, do you ever use them? And she said, no. I said, you got 3 sets. Use the blasted things. They're special to you. And, every time friends or family sits around your table, it is a special time. So celebrate. I'm big on celebrations. So
I love it.
Choose to enjoy your life. Move forward with your life.
Yes. I love that. Actually, our ministry is moving for a ministry which sponsors the Keys to Your Best Life broadcast. So that is just it in a nutshell, y'all. Listen, I don't know if you have read her books before, but if you have not, you need to get them. They are available where fine books are sold, as well as any opportunity you get to hear this woman speak. You want to be there, and you want to bring friends. And if you are grieving, and if you are needing someone to walk that out with you, coaches are very important in life. And a lot of times people don't understand understand the difference between a counselor and a coach, but a coach is there with you to take where you're at now to get to where you're going, where a counselor goes backwards and deals with the root issues and then gets to the point where they can coach you along. And this woman, I totally endorse everything she does. I know her heart. I know that the things that she's walked through and the authenticity that she walks through.
Thank you.
And that is what it is. That is anybody that will get on stage and take their makeup off, my kind of girl. My kind of girl.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, that was something that the Lord instilled in me when I started speaking, is take your makeup off. And I'm like, you can see people, Maggie, they're going like, I hope this is not a group exercise and we all have to do this. But it's just a visual, because if you know Cherie Jobe very well, you know that I am real and transparent. And I think we are living in a time now that people don't want any fluff. They just want the real thing.
Amen.
And so I encourage people to look for our conference in February. It will be the 10-year, and we are really going to blow Jesus out on this one, because he has done some amazing things in the 10 years that he's allowed this conference to stand. And so we're going to have a party.
Amen. Y'all, that's the New Beginnings. New Beginnings is in the Middle Tennessee. Will it be at the Embassy Suites again?
No, it will be at Third Baptist Church this year.
Okay. And that's in Nashville?
No, it's in Murfreesboro.
Oh,
no,
okay.
Right here in Murfreesboro. And you can go to cheriejobe.com. And we'll have the flyers out. Early bird sales will go on October the 1st. You can save $10 from the regular ticket the whole month of October. We're not changing anything that we've done for 9 years. I feel like, the Lord formulated it. I'm not changing it. And we're just going with the way he's done it all these years. And he's blessed it. And when I go places, women tell me all the time how much fun and how much laughter they had that day. It's a day to refresh and re-energize your soul. And so it's going to be a great day.
How exciting is that? I can't wait for this year coming. I'm hoping that my calendar allows me to get there. So
I hope so too.
No ice storms.
No ice storms.
No ice storms. So listen, y'all, find her on social media, follow her, make sure that you get the information about this amazing conference and what God is doing. And we're going to have Cherie back whenever it's close to the book release time to talk a little bit more about that, because I believe that maybe you're going, okay, I haven't lost anybody. At some point you will, and you need to be prepared. And in addition to that, you need to have those back seat books that whenever you are out to coffee with your friends and they are going through something, I'm big on, there are so many books that I have just bought like multiple copies and just give away. And this would be one of those type of books you want to have on hand for grief. I carry a book around, one on boundaries and one on offense. And
there you go.
If I leave somebody, the Lord is like, here's your Bible and here's your book about getting offended, because you're probably going to get offended pretty quick. And
well, Maggie, I talk a lot of times about an emergency kit that we all need to have available to us. Yeah. When you need an emergency kit, it's not when the emergency hits. It's before the emergency hit. You have to be prepared. And what you're saying right there is exactly what I'm saying. Be prepared. Have your ammunition in your little bag, to where if you do need to give someone a book on grief or loss, there's only two things that's promised in this life, and that is death and taxes. And they are both going to happen to us at some point in time. Yeah. So just be prepared and to continue to live your best life now.
Amen. Well, we'll close it out with that, y'all. You heard it all right here on Keys to Your Best Life. I want to thank you for taking the time to be here with me today. God bless you guys. We'll catch you next time, and be watching for that book and the conference coming up. So we'll see you all next time right here on Keys to Your Best Life. God bless.